Today, we are going to talk about something that confuses millions of English learners around the world. You listen to native speakers talking, and you think, wait, what did they just say? That sounded like one long sound, not separate words. They say gonna instead of going to, wanna instead of want to, lemme instead of let me, and sometimes they even eat half of the word and it disappears into thin air. And you're standing there wondering, is this even the same English I studied in school? If this sounds familiar, congratulations, you were part of a massive global club. Today's episode of Why Native Speakers Talk Like That is dedicated to one of the biggest reasons English listening feels hard. Native speakers cut words in the middle. And once you understand why they do this and how it works linguistically, historically, and practically, something incredible happens. English starts sounding logical instead of chaotic. Welcome to Real English. Welcome to English as natives speak it. And please, subscribe to the English Uncovered podcast. Before we go deeper, I want you to imagine this. You are walking down a busy street in London, New York, Toronto, Sydney, or any English-speaking city. People are talking everywhere, on phones, in groups, ordering coffee, asking directions. And you hear someone say, "Hey, I'm gonna grab a coffee. Do you want to come?" A student of textbook English might freeze. Going to? Want to? Did he just say something like, Joanna? Why does everything sound smashed together? And the answer is simple. Native speakers speak for efficiency. They cut, join, blend, and reduce sounds so that speech becomes faster, smoother, and more natural. Every language does this to some degree, but English takes it to a very serious level. So today, we're going to explore why this happens psychologically, physiologically, historically, and culturally. And then I will give you practical listening and speaking tips so that you can not only understand natives better, but also sound more natural yourself. The first thing we need to accept is that speech is physical. Human beings are lazy with movement. If there is a quicker way to pronounce something, the brain will choose the quicker path automatically. Linguists call this phenomenon economy of effort. Think of it like this. When you are carrying a heavy box, you naturally look for the shortest route. When you speak, your mouth does the same thing. It looks for the fastest route from one sound to the next. So when native speakers say going to, their tongue has to move a lot more than when they say gonna. Saying want to takes more energy than wanna. And let me requires more muscular movement than just lemme. These reductions are not a sign of bad English. They are efficient English. They are real-world English. And if you want to truly understand native speech, you have to understand that speech is not academic. It is physical. Now, here is something many learners never realize. Native speakers are not thinking about grammar when they speak. They're not thinking, oh yes, I will now use the future tense by combining the present progressive of the verb go with the infinitive marker to. No, they are thinking about communicating quickly. Example, I'm gonna go, for a native is not a slang form of I am going to go. It is simply the way the brain and mouth produce that phrase automatically in fast conversation. It's as natural as breathing. And this is why classroom English can be misleading. In books, everything is clean and separated. Going to, want to, have to, give me, let me. But in real speech, those become gonna, wanna, have to, gimme, and lemme. A learner who only studies the first version will always feel like real English is fast and impossible. But once you learn the second version, the natural spoken versions, the world opens up. Suddenly, conversations start to sound familiar instead of chaotic. Now let's talk about connected speech, which is the scientific term for how native speakers blend and shorten words when speaking at natural speed. When natives talk slowly and formally, like in a job interview, a presentation, or reading the news, they may pronounce every sound. But everyday conversation is not like that. Everyday conversation is fast, relaxed, and automatic. In connected speech, sounds influence each other. Some disappear, others transform. Did you becomes didya. What are you becomes what'ya. Don't know becomes dunno. And here is the key point. These reductions are not random. They happen in predictable ways because of the structure of the mouth. For example, when a T sound is between two vowel sounds, it often becomes softer or even disappears completely. That is why water becomes water in American English, or even wa in some accents. It's not wrong. It's natural. And the sooner you get used to hearing these reductions, the faster your listening will improve.
Now you might ask, but why doesn't English spelling change then? If natives say gonna, why don't we write gonna? Great question. The answer lies in history. English spelling stopped evolving centuries ago, but the way people speak continued evolving every generation. In Shakespeare's time, English pronunciation was completely different. People pronounced more consonants, spoke more slowly, and did not reduce words as much. But over time, language changed. People started speaking faster and cutting sounds. That is how going to became gonna, how them became em, how it is became it's. But spelling stayed locked in the past, so modern English has a huge gap between how words are written and how they are spoken. This is why students who only rely on reading will always struggle with listening. The spelling is 500 years old. The pronunciation is modern. And if you want to understand natives, you need to train your ear, not just your eyes. Let me give you a real-life example. If you see the sentence, "I'm going to talk to him," most learners will hear in their head, "I am going to talk to him." But a native speaker, in natural conversation, will usually say something very different. "I'm going to talk to him." Notice what happened. 3 reductions occurred. Going to became gonna, to became ta, a weak, reduced sound. Him lost the H sound and became im. To a student, these changes feel like the sentence was completely transformed. But to a native speaker, this is normal, casual, effortless speech. If you hear native English and you only understand half of the words, that doesn't mean your vocabulary is weak. It means you are trying to listen for dictionary English instead of real English. So let's talk about something very important. When native speakers cut words in the middle, they are not just being lazy. They are being efficient. They are increasing speed and preserving rhythm, because English is a rhythm-based language. Portuguese and Spanish, for example, are syllable-timed languages. Each syllable has almost equal time. English is stress-timed. That means some words are strong, content words, and others are weak, function words. Strong words carry meaning, nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs. Weak words are grammar words, articles, prepositions, auxiliary verbs. In natural English, strong words are pronounced clearly, while weak words shrink or disappear. This is why native speakers reduce to, for, of, and, is, are, was, were, and other grammatical words. They are not essential to the meaning, so the brain does not waste energy pronouncing them fully. When you learn this, your listening becomes much easier. You stop trying to hear every word perfectly and start listening for the strong words that carry the message. Let's do a small exercise. I want you to listen in your mind to this sentence. I have to go now, but I'll call you later. In textbook English, every word sounds separated. I have to go now, but I will call you later. But in natural speech, you will hear, I have to go now, but I'll call you later. Notice the reductions. Have to became hafta, will became ul, you became ya. But even more importantly, the rhythm changes. Strong words are have, go, now, call, later. The rest are weak background sounds. If you train your ear to focus on the strong words instead of trying to catch every small detail, you will suddenly understand much more of what natives say. Now let's talk about psychology. Native speakers cut words because conversation is fast and social. When two natives talk, their goal is not clear pronunciation. Their goal is rapid connection, reacting, responding, interrupting, agreeing, adding comments, telling stories, sharing feelings. In conversation, speed matters, and speed requires shortcuts. Imagine two friends watching a football game. One says, "Hey, you want to grab some food?" The other doesn't need the full pronunciation. The meaning is clear from context. So the brain allows shortcuts. In real life, language is shaped by the need to communicate in real time. This is one reason students who only watch slow English content, like news broadcasts or scripted educational materials, struggle when they face real conversation. They are listening to performance English, not real English. Performance English is slow, clear, and formal. Real English is fast, reduced, and emotional. If you want to understand natives, you must train with material that reflects how people actually speak. Now, an important question. Should you speak using reductions? My answer is yes, but with control. If you start saying gonna, wanna, have to, lemme all the time, you will sound more natural in casual contexts. But you should also know when not to use them. Job interviews, academic presentations, and formal writing usually prefer full forms. The key is flexibility. Natives switch between reduced and full forms depending on the situation. You should learn to do the same. But learning to understand reductions is not optional. If you do not train your ear to recognize reduced forms, natural conversation will always sound fast and impossible. So start listening to English not the way students do, but the way babies do, paying attention to sound, rhythm, and flow, not individual words. Now let's add some practical listening tips. When listening to natives, do not try to catch every word. That is how beginners listen, and it leads to frustration. Instead, focus on three things. First, focus on stressed words, the ones that carry meaning. Second, learn to predict reduced forms. If you hear, I'm gonna, you know a verb will follow. If you hear wanna, you know there's a desire or intention. If you hear have to, you know there is obligation. If you hear can't even, you know someone is frustrated or surprised. These patterns repeat constantly in native English. And third, stop expecting full pronunciation. If you are expecting going to, you will never hear gonna. If you are waiting for did you will miss didja. Let the language flow and pay attention to rhythm rather than spelling.
Now let's move to practical speaking exercises. A great way to train natural pronunciation is to shadow short native clips. Choose something short, 10 to 20 seconds from a movie, podcast, or YouTube video. Play 3 seconds, pause, repeat exactly what the speaker said, not as written, but as spoken. If they say, I'm gonna go, you say, I'm gonna go, not I am going to go. After a few weeks of shadowing, something amazing happens. You begin to feel the rhythm of English. Your mouth starts to choose the same shortcuts as natives without thinking. This is fluency. Fluency is not speaking fast. Fluency is speaking automatically, without thinking about grammar. And connected speech helps your brain reach that level. Now, I want to say something very important. Cutting words in the middle is not bad English. It is real English. If you meet a native speaker and you pronounce every word perfectly without reductions, you will sound either robotic, extremely formal, or like you have only learned English from books. There is nothing wrong with sounding formal, but if your goal is everyday communication, you need to sound like a human being. Real English is messy. Real English is fast. Real English is efficient. Real English is spoken, not written. And the more you accept this, the faster your listening will improve. Let me give you more examples of common reductions. Did you eat becomes jeet. What do you mean becomes what do you mean. Give me becomes gimme. Tell him becomes tell him. I don't know becomes I don't know. Kind of becomes kinda. Sort of becomes sorta. Got to becomes gotta. At first, these forms feel like a new language, but the more you hear them, the more predictable they become. This is the same process babies go through. Babies do not learn by studying grammar charts. They learn by exposure, repetition, and pattern recognition. They hear gonna 1,000 times before they even understand what going to is. This is why native speakers feel like English is easy. They learned the spoken language before the written one. Many learners do the opposite. They learn the written language first and try to decode the spoken version later. That is why listening feels difficult. Let's talk about technology. Most automatic captions on platforms like YouTube, Netflix, and TikTok show the textbook spelling going to, want to, have to. But the audio says something completely different. This creates a false reality. Learners look at the captions and think, oh yes, I understood everything. But when they try listening without subtitles, they feel lost. One powerful exercise is turning on auto-generated subtitles in English and watching how many times what is spoken does not match the written version. It trains your brain to hear the reduced, real version instead of the artificial subtitle version. Another exercise is to write down every shortcut you hear while watching a conversation, and then compare it to the written sentence. This builds a mental map of how real English transforms. Now here is the final psychological insight. Native speakers do not cut words because they don't care about pronunciation. They cut words because humans do not speak to be perfect. We speak to connect. We speak to be understood quickly. We speak to share emotions, ideas, humor, reactions. Perfect pronunciation is for classrooms. Efficient pronunciation is for life. Once you accept this, English becomes less about grammar rules and more about communication. You stop worrying about, is my sentence perfect, and start focusing on, did I express my idea clearly? That is fluency. So let's finish with a mindset shift. Instead of thinking natives speak too fast, start thinking natives speak efficiently. Instead of thinking I need to understand every sound, think I need to follow the rhythm and meaning. Instead of expecting dictionary pronunciation, train your ear for natural pronunciation. And instead of trying to speak like a textbook, begin speaking like a human. Because English was not created to be written on paper. It was created to be spoken between people with real emotions, real stories, real lives. If you keep listening, shadowing, observing reductions, and practicing naturally, there will come a moment, sooner than you think, when you will hear a native speaker say, I'm going to have to go, but I'll call you later. And instead of panic, you will smile and think, yes, I understood everything without translating. That is the moment English stops being a subject and becomes a living language inside you. Welcome to Real English. Welcome to English as natives speak it, and welcome to the journey
of truly understanding why native speakers talk like that.